Okay, so, buckle up, because this is a wild one. It all started back when I was 24. My older sister, Elena, she was 26 at the time, and I hadn't spoken in 3 whole years. Growing up, we were inseparable, like 2 peas in a pod. I totally idolized her, you know? We did everything together, shared all our secrets. But things went sideways when we hit college. Elena, she's always been the brains of the family, got into this super prestigious university, top of her class, the whole 9 yards. Me, not so much. I didn't get into any of the big-name schools I applied to. Honestly, it was a huge blow to my ego. So, I ended up at community college, figuring I'd take some time to figure things out. And that's when the shift happened. It wasn't overnight, but it became pretty clear that Elena was, well, embarrassed by me. I get it. She was surrounded by all these high-achieving people. Maybe she felt pressure to fit in. But her attitude started to change. Whenever I talked about my classes, she'd give me this condescending smile, like she was trying to be polite, but couldn't care less. She'd make these snide comments about how I shouldn't settle for community college, that I should aim higher. It stung, but I tried to brush it off. I kept telling myself she was just adjusting to her new life, but it only got worse. At family gatherings, she'd barely acknowledge me, and when she did, it felt like she was doing me a favor. I remember this one time, she introduced me to one of her friends as just a relative, like she was genuinely ashamed to admit we were sisters. There's only so much a person can take. I was hurting, big time. I tried talking to her about it, how her behavior was making me feel, but she'd either shut me down or turn it around on me, saying I was being too sensitive. It went on like this for a while. She never held back from letting me know she thought I was less than her because I wasn't as accomplished. And then came the final straw, a party. She invited me, out of pity, I realize now, to celebrate her graduation. It was 3 years ago. Everyone there was from her Ivy League crew. I felt so out of place. They were all talking about things I didn't understand, and I tried to fit in, but it was obvious I didn't belong. I had a few drinks, got a little tipsy, and thought I could join in one of their games. Ended up spilling a drink on one of her friends. Her friend, she completely freaked out, screaming about how I'd ruined her $7,000 outfit. I was mortified, kept apologizing profusely, but that wasn't enough for Elena. She absolutely lost it, right there in front of everyone. Called me pathetic. Said she regretted being my sister. Her words, they cut deep. I'll never forget how small she made me feel. It was like she finally had the chance to let everyone know how ashamed she was of me. Look, I know I messed up. I shouldn't have had so much to drink, but I was so anxious being there, trying to fit in with her crowd. Still, I didn't deserve the way she treated me. After that, Elena cut me off completely, deleted my number, blocked me on social media, the works. I tried reaching out over the years, but she wouldn't respond. She even told our mom she didn't want to hear from me, that she wanted me gone from her life. Our mom, bless her heart, always tried to get us to talk again. Every family event, she'd beg me to try and make peace with Elena. For 3 years, she pleaded with me to go to Elena's birthday parties, but out of respect for Elena's wishes, I didn't. Mom kept saying that family was important, that we should work things out. But Elena clearly didn't want to see me. If it were up to me, I would have talked to her ages ago. I didn't want her to hate me, so I stayed away. But this year was different. Mom begged me more than usual. She said Elena had mellowed out, that maybe this time things would be different. She was so emotional about it, and I'll admit, I missed my family. I hadn't seen them all together in years because Elena would avoid any event I was invited to. So I agreed to go. I figured I'd show up with a peace offering and hope for the best. I wanted to show Elena that I wasn't the same person she thought I was. I'd built a successful career as a writer, even self-published a book that was doing pretty well. I bought her a really expensive designer bag, like $2,000 expensive. I thought maybe it would show her that I'd made it, that she wouldn't look down on me anymore. When I arrived at the party, well, it was clear from the start that nothing had changed. The moment Elena saw me, she gave me this look of disgust. Didn't say much at first, but the vibes were definitely off. Barely 2 minutes after I walked in, she asked, in this super loud voice so everyone could hear, "Who invited her?" It stung, but I tried to brush it off. I reminded myself I was there to make peace, but she wasn't done. She walked over to me, everyone watching, and announced, "Community college trash, like you could never fit in here." It was humiliating. All the confidence I'd built over the years just crumbled. I stood there, fighting back tears, wishing I hadn't come. Elena walked away, back to her group of friends. I figured it was time to leave. I wasn't welcome. I waited a minute, let everyone go back to their conversations, and then made my way to the exit. But just before I could get there, one of Elena's friends approached me, said she recognized me. At first, I thought she was confusing me with someone else. But then she started talking about my book. She'd read it, even had a copy with her, asked me to sign it. I was completely shocked. My book had gotten popular, but I never thought anyone at Elena's party would know about it. I signed her book, and suddenly, the mood shifted. Elena's whole attitude changed. She went from ignoring me to acting like we were best friends. Started introducing me to her guests as the genius behind the book. It was so fake I didn't know what to do. Clearly, she only cared about me now because her friend was impressed by my success. I played along to avoid more drama, but inside, I felt so betrayed. I stayed a little longer until it got too uncomfortable and then left. But Elena was acting like nothing had happened, like she hadn't spent the last 3 years completely ignoring me. Ever since her birthday party, she's been blowing up my phone with calls and texts, asking if we can hang out, be sisters again, saying how proud she is of me, how we should reconnect. I haven't responded. It's been a week of this constant spamming. I talked to a friend about it, and she said I was being rude for not giving Elena a second chance. Honestly, I do miss having a relationship with her. But it's hard to forget how she treated me when she thought I was a nobody. In her eyes, I was only worth her time now that I was successful, and I don't like that at all. I mean, we're family, right? Why should my career define how she treats me? But I still don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I right to be cautious? Wow, you guys are amazing. Seriously. Thanks for all the responses and advice. I've read through everything, and it's given me a lot to think about. So, I wanted to give you an update on what's happened since my last post. And let me tell you, it's been a wild ride. First off, some of you had questions about my decision to go no contact with Elena. You're right, it wasn't an easy choice, but it wasn't something I did on a whim. After that party where she called me pathetic in front of her friends, I spent years trying to reach out. Texts, calls, even asking my mom to play mediator. You name it, I tried it. But Elena made it clear she wasn't interested. Blocked me everywhere. Refused to be in the same room as me. She even got our family involved, basically forcing them to choose between us because she wouldn't attend any event where I was present. Eventually, I just stopped going to those events, so at least everyone else could enjoy themselves. It doesn't mean I never saw my family, obviously. Just no more family barbecues for me for the next 3 years. At some point, I stopped trying to reach out to Elena altogether. I felt humiliated, you know? Like, why keep chasing after someone who clearly doesn't want me around? That's how the no contact happened. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't going to keep banging my head against a brick wall. A lot of you also asked why I decided to go to her birthday party after 3 years of no contact. Honestly, I was hesitant. My mom had been begging me to go for years, saying Elena might come around if I just showed up. I didn't want to, out of respect for the boundaries Elena had set. But this time, Mom made it sound like Elena had really changed. So, I caved. Part of me hoped Mom was right, that things could be different. Turns out, they weren't. Lastly, a bunch of you asked about that party where I spilled the drink on her friend. Some of you think I'm leaving out details, but that's literally all there was to it. I was super nervous about hanging out with Elena and her friends. She'd spent the last 4 years talking about how amazing they all were, how I was trash compared to them. Not to mention, they all came from these influential families, while Elena and I came from a pretty average middle-class background. I know I shouldn't have had so much to drink. But I was 21, and I figured it wouldn't hurt to let loose a little. I never intended to ruin the party or embarrass Elena. I've always felt bad about that day, and trust me, I did everything I could to show her how sorry I was. A lot of you have said Elena's reaction was over the top, and you know what? You're probably right. But that's Elena for you. Always a bit dramatic. Anyway, after that whole disaster at the party, I decided not to respond to Elena's texts right away. I needed time to process everything. I mean, she acted like I was garbage for years, and now suddenly she wants to be close just because one of her friends recognized me from my book. It felt off. Eventually, I did send her a text. I thanked her for being nicer at the party, but I also told her I wasn't comfortable jumping back into a sisterly relationship just because she'd stopped thinking I was a loser. I said I needed time to think, that I didn't want to rebuild our relationship based on my success. Apparently, that didn't go over well. Elena called our mom to complain that I was ignoring her and being difficult. Then Mom called me saying Elena was heartbroken and wanted to make things right. I tried explaining that this wasn't about ignoring Elena, it was about protecting myself from getting hurt again. I told Mom I was glad Elena seemed interested in repairing our relationship, but I couldn't just ignore how badly she'd treated me in the past. Mom gave me the usual spiel about family being family, how this was the perfect opportunity to rebuild our bond. I think I kind of snapped at that point. I asked her where this energy was when Elena was calling me community college trash and ignoring me for years. I told her that if she'd spent half as much energy begging Elena to let go of her petty grudge as she had begging me to attend these events, maybe things wouldn't have gotten this bad. She got quiet after that and hung up pretty quickly. A couple of days later, Elena showed up at my apartment, unannounced. I hadn't even told her where I lived, so I assume Mom must have given her the address. She had all these old photos of us as kids, started talking about how much she missed me. It was strange. She kept saying things like how she'd been thinking about us lately, how we were always meant to be close. But the more we talked, the weirder it got. She kept bringing up my income, casually mentioning how successful I was now. Asked a lot of questions about how much I make from my book, if I had any other projects lined up. It felt like the conversation was more about what I could do for her with my new finances than about genuinely reconnecting. Then she started dropping hints about how we could start a family business together, since she has great ideas, and I'm so talented. That's when I knew for sure something was up. I was uncomfortable and wanted her gone, so I made an excuse about needing to finish some work and managed to get her out of my apartment. I haven't heard from her directly since, but Mom has been calling nonstop, trying to get me to give Elena another chance. At this point, I don't know what to do. I miss the sister I had growing up, but the person she's become, she doesn't seem interested in me, just in what I can offer her now that I'm doing well. I'm not sure I want to go down that road, especially after everything she's put me through. Hey everyone, it's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and somehow Elena has managed to outdo herself in the crazy department. About a week after her surprise visit, I started getting DMs from people, mostly mutual acquaintances and some of her friends. These were folks I hadn't spoken to in years, and suddenly they were texting me about how excited they were about this new business Elena and I were supposedly starting together. Some even congratulated me, said they couldn't wait to see what we built, and that they wanted to be the first to invest. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea what anyone was talking about. I figured there must be some kind of misunderstanding, so I asked a few people what they meant. That's when I found out that Elena had been going around telling everyone that we were starting a business together, something creative and trendy, like a lifestyle brand or a product line based on my book. She told them I'd be handling the creative side since I was so talented, her words, not mine, and she'd be taking care of marketing and sales because she's great with people. I even got a message from someone asking if I was taking pre-orders for this upcoming launch. I was stunned. Not only had I never agreed to this, but I hadn't even hinted that I was remotely interested in starting a business with her, let alone in that field. And now all these people thought we were deep in the planning stages. I was beyond frustrated. I mean, who just goes around making these kinds of announcements without even a conversation? I decided to confront Elena, but over text, because I didn't think I could handle talking to her face to face after the last time. Even though it was over text, I wanted to be clear and straightforward. I asked her what on earth she was doing and told her it wasn't okay to tell people we were starting a business when I never agreed to anything. But instead of apologizing or even acknowledging what I said, she brushed me off. Told me she was just getting the word out to build excitement and that I was overreacting. The way she responded made me feel for a split second like I was the one being unreasonable. She kept going on and on, about how this was such a great opportunity for both of us, how we could make a ton of money if we teamed up. She didn't seem to care that I was upset or that she had crossed a major boundary. All she talked about was the potential success we could have and how I was being difficult for not seeing the bigger picture. At that point, I was done. I told her I wasn't interested and that she needed to stop. I thought if I made it clear how uncomfortable this made me, she'd back off. But instead, she hit me with a guilt trip. Said I was holding on to the past and being selfish by refusing to rebuild our relationship through this amazing business opportunity. She even accused me of being petty and bitter, saying I was too focused on old issues to see how much she had changed. I genuinely don't understand how she could say all that without once stopping to think about how insane she sounded. Our old issues were literally her ignoring me and treating me like garbage because I didn't have the same life experiences as her. Besides, I wasn't going to let her guilt me into doing something I didn't want to do. I told her I needed space and asked her, very clearly, to stop contacting me. I thought that would be the end of it, but of course it wasn't. The next day, she sent me a bunch of emotional texts accusing me of throwing away a chance to repair our relationship. She dragged Mom into it again, saying I was breaking her heart by not letting go of old grudges and giving our relationship a fresh start. At that point, I knew I couldn't keep doing this. I was exhausted, mentally and emotionally. I tried to be polite and patient, but Elena refused to respect my boundaries. The only reason she wanted to rebuild our relationship was because she saw an opportunity to make money for herself. Honestly, I would have genuinely helped her out if she had actually acknowledged how she hurt me for years and tried to make amends. But she kept brushing it off, trying to make me feel like I was the only one in the wrong. I couldn't keep hearing her blame and shame me, so I blocked her. It wasn't easy, and part of me felt guilty for doing it, but I knew I had to protect my peace. I didn't want to get sucked back into her chaos, especially now that I'm in a good place in life. It was hard enough to climb out of the hole she pushed me into emotionally. I wasn't about to let her drag me back down. And that's it for now. If anything more bizarre happens, I'll update you guys. Hopefully, that won't be the case. But with Elena, you never know. Well, I thought I was done with this whole mess. But of course, things had to escalate again. About 2 weeks after I blocked Elena, I got a call from my mom. She sounded upset and told me that Elena had shown up at her house, crying and saying that I was ruining her life. Apparently, since Elena had been telling everyone about this amazing new business venture of ours and really hyped it up, she was now in a bind. People were starting to ask questions about said business, and she had no answers to give, because obviously there was no business. Mom was practically begging me to unblock Elena and at least talk to her. She said that Elena was going through a really tough time and just needed my support. I'll admit that a part of me felt bad for a split second, but then I remembered how manipulative she'd been throughout this whole thing, and I wasn't about to let her guilt trip me again. I told Mom as much and hung up the phone. I wasn't responsible for the lies Elena went around telling. I didn't even know about this business until a few weeks ago. Then I found out through a mutual friend that Elena's situation was way worse than I thought. She didn't just hype up this imaginary business. Remember how in my last update I told you about how a few people even offered to lend me money as an investment in the business? Turns out they did the same with Elena, and she actually took money from them without even telling me. She collected money from friends, relatives, and random acquaintances who believed in this big project we were supposedly starting. And she didn't use that money to set anything up, because there was nothing to set up. Instead, she used it to fund her expensive lifestyle. From what I've gathered, she spent it on designer clothes, fancy dinners, and weekend trips, all while pretending she was some hotshot entrepreneur getting ready to launch her dream business. When people started asking questions about the business, she panicked. With no project to show for the money she'd collected, she blamed me for backing out and leaving her in the lurch. She was telling everyone that I was the reason the business fell apart, which made her look bad and got people really angry at her. This friend also told me that Elena had been struggling financially for a while. After she graduated from college, she didn't land the great job she expected and has been hopping between gigs ever since. But on social media, she's still posting like she's living this lavish life, fancy trips, expensive dinners, designer clothes, you know the drill. Turns out she's drowning in debt and just trying to keep up appearances. I guess that's why she was so desperate to involve me. She saw me as her way out. She didn't reach out because she missed me or wanted to make amends. She wanted me to bail her out. And when I didn't play along, she panicked. So when Mom called me again, because of course she did, she kept going on about how Elena was in a bad place and how it was my responsibility to help her out. She tried to make me feel guilty, saying that I should be the bigger person. She said that this was just a phase for Elena and that she needed family to get through it. But I was done listening to the same excuses over and over again. Her bad place had started when she went to college, and for some reason she never pulled herself out of it. She not only put herself in trouble, but she made it her mission to drag others down with her. She didn't care that she was going to hurt those close to her. She only wanted to make sure that she looked good. I spent years feeling like trash about that party incident where I spilled a drink on her friend. I've read hundreds of comments since then, and realized that it wasn't as big of a deal as Elena made it out to be. She just made me feel so bad about myself that I had no idea what was right and wrong. She cut all contact with me over, quite literally, a spilled drink. So this time, I didn't let Mom speak too much. Instead, I shut her down and told her straight up that I wasn't going to let myself be used, no matter how much guilt she or Elena tried to throw my way. I reminded her of how much of a nightmare and a bully Elena was. I told her about how Elena had completely ruined my self-esteem for years just so she could feel better about herself. And now, after everything, she expected me to be the one to fix Elena's mess. There was no way that was going to happen. I also told her that if she was so worried about Elena, then she should be the one to help her out, not me. I wasn't going to enable her bad decisions, and I certainly wasn't going to take the blame for her own mess. Mom kept trying to push me, but I think I reached my breaking point. I told her that if she didn't stop trying to guilt-trip me into fixing this for Elena, I'd block her too. That seemed to get through to her, at least for now. She wasn't happy about it, but I think she finally realized that I wasn't going to budge on this. I haven't heard from Elena since I blocked her, and honestly, I'm relieved. I feel bad that it turned out this way, but at the same time, I know I made the right decision. It sucks that she's struggling, but that's not my responsibility to fix, especially when she was trying to drag me down with her. I know a lot of you have commented that I should give Elena another chance, that family is family, but I've spent too long letting her walk all over me. This whole situation has really shown me that just because someone is family, it doesn't mean you owe them your time, energy, or money, especially when they've only ever treated you poorly. It's been a few weeks since I last updated you all, and things have been, well, they've been interesting. Life without Elena's drama has been surprisingly peaceful. I've been able to focus on my writing, and I'm actually making good progress on my next book. It feels good to be in control of my own life, and not constantly worrying about what kind of mess Elena is going to drag me into next. But of course, the story doesn't end there. A couple of weeks ago, I got an email from a lawyer. Apparently, Elena is suing me. Yeah, you heard that right. Suing me. According to the lawyer's letter, Elena claims that we had a verbal agreement to start this business together, and that I backed out at the last minute, causing her significant financial losses. She's demanding that I compensate her for the money she invested in the business, as well as for the lost profits she would have made if the business had launched. I was floored. This woman has no shame. Not only did we not have any kind of agreement, verbal or otherwise, but she's the one who went around collecting money from people under false pretenses. And now she's trying to pin it all on me? I immediately called my own lawyer, who, thankfully, found the whole thing as ridiculous as I did. He assured me that Elena's case has no merit, and that we'll fight it vigorously. But still, it's incredibly stressful. I mean, I'm being sued by my own sister. It's just surreal. On top of that, Mom has been calling non-stop, pleading with me to drop the lawsuit and just work things out with Elena. She keeps saying that this is tearing the family apart, and that we need to find a way to forgive each other. I get where she's coming from. I really do. But I'm not going to let Elena bully me into submission. She made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. I'm not going to be held responsible for her lies and her bad decisions. This whole experience has been incredibly eye-opening. It's made me realize that sometimes the people closest to you can be the most toxic. And sometimes you have to cut them out of your life, even if it hurts. I know it's not easy. Believe me, I've struggled with guilt and doubt, but I also know that I deserve to be happy, and to live a life free from drama and manipulation. And if that means cutting ties with my own sister, then so be it. I'll keep you guys updated on the lawsuit. Hopefully it'll be resolved quickly, and I can put this whole nightmare behind me. In the meantime, I'm focusing on taking care of myself and surrounding myself with people who love and support me. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last update, and a lot has happened. First, the good news. Elena dropped the lawsuit. Apparently, her lawyer finally convinced her that she had no case. Or maybe she realized that dragging this out in court would only expose her lies and make her look even worse. Whatever the reason, I'm just relieved that it's over. But that doesn't mean the drama has ended completely. Since the lawsuit was dropped, Elena has been on a full-blown smear campaign against me. She's been telling everyone who will listen that I'm a terrible person, that I betrayed her, that I'm the reason she's in financial trouble. She's even been posting about it on social media, trying to paint me as the villain in this whole mess. It's frustrating, to say the least, but honestly, I'm kind of numb to it at this point. I've realized that Elena is never going to take responsibility for her own actions. She's always going to find someone else to blame, and that's her problem, not mine. I've decided to take the high road and not engage with her drama. I'm not going to waste my time and energy trying to defend myself against her lies. People who know me know the truth. And those who don't? Well, their opinions don't really matter to me. In the meantime, I'm focusing on moving forward. I'm working on my book, spending time with my friends and loved ones, and just enjoying life. It's amazing how much lighter and happier I feel now that I'm not constantly dealing with Elena's toxicity. This whole experience has been a tough one, but it's also been a valuable lesson. It's taught me the importance of setting boundaries, of standing up for myself, and of choosing my own well-being over someone else's drama. It's also taught me that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes, the people who truly care about you are the ones you choose. I'm so grateful for all the support you guys have given me throughout this ordeal. Your comments and advice have helped me stay strong and make the right decisions. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm facing it with a newfound sense of confidence and peace. I know that I can handle whatever life throws my way, even if it means dealing with a crazy sister who's determined to make my life miserable. And who knows? Maybe one day, Elena will realize the error of her ways and apologize for all the hurt she's caused. But until then, I'm going to keep living my life on my own terms, surrounded by people who love and support me, because that's what truly matters. So, thank you again for everything. I'm signing off now, but I'll be sure to update you if anything major happens. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and remember, you are worthy of love and respect, no matter what.